Everyone to this session on how to deliver effective presentations in academia as part of the Overcoming Obstacles, Barriers and Challenges series. I'm Joanna Pexa on behalf of the Learning Enhancement team at Middlesex University, guiding students in different aspects of academic communication. If you want to know more on what we do and how we can help you thrive in academia, email us on let@mdx.ac.uk. Today's session focuses on three main components of an effective presentation: audience, effective preparation, and delivery. And the context we're going to discuss is university. So the art of presenting in university requires a certain level of formality, it requires a certain level of preparation, and it also requires a certain knowledge about the topic. So let's get started with the audience. Your audience will have certain expectations towards what you're saying. Your primary audience will be probably and most likely your class tutor and your fellow classmates. They will have a certain level of knowledge about the topic. So you need to think about what you want to convey, what is the message that you want to convey, and how much explanation they need from you. So for example, if you are providing a definition of the term, think about whether it's really necessary to do that. Also, the audience will expect you to have a clear purpose of your presentation. Remember that you're working within a limited time frame, and the purpose of your presentation will need to be relevant to that time frame. So do not include too much or too little in your presentation. We're going to talk about it in more detail when we talk about delivery, but the audience really is the factor that can make your presentation successful. The art of presentation is an act of verbal communication, so it requires from you the familiarity with your audience's expectations. Also remember that your audience will have a certain limit to what they want to hear. They will have a limited attention span. It's usually 10 minutes, and they will want you to engage with them. And there are various things you can do in order to make your presentation more engaging and in order to prepare yourself for your audience's expectations. Your audience will also have questions to you, and it's up to you to establish the protocol for asking questions. You might want to welcome questions throughout your presentation or at the very end of it. You are the one in control. You are the one who establishes that protocol. When it comes to the questions from your audience, think about what types of questions will be asked. So anticipate what your audience will want to know from you. If there is anything that you haven't mentioned during your presentation, you will likely be asked that by your tutor towards the end of the discussion of the presentation or the discussion part of it. And also think about how you will channel questions that you don't know the answer to. So this is a tricky one, and our advice is to think about how to satisfy your audience, even though you don't know how to answer the question, you don't know the answer to. So one of the answers that you can give to your audience is that you will do research, take their contact details, and tell them you'll get back to them at a later stage with a satisfying answer. Interaction with your audience is crucial. Remember that I will have expectations. Remember that I want to be engaged in what you're saying. And also remember that you are the one who controls the room. So it's up to you how you will pace the contact with your audience and how you pace the whole presentation. And this relates to the structure of your presentation. Your presentation in academia will be divided into three parts. So the opening, the body, and closing. And they will have certain characteristics. So for example, when you prepare the opening of your presentation, so that's an introduction, the first thing you need to do is capture the room. So capture the audience's attention. You're thinking of an impactful statement here, an opening sentence or a thought that will attract your audience. And you've got a very limited time to do that. It is also important to introduce the context of your topic. Explain why the topic is important, interesting in your field of study. So you might want to use a meaningful piece of data, statistical data to support your stance. Also, maybe you want to introduce a problem that you're discussing and support it with the research. So, as I said before, this is an academic presentation. It's an academic context. You will need references to support your point of view, to support your ideas, and to illustrate your examples. And last of all, in your introduction, in your opening section, you will need to state the purpose and scope. So that links back to your audience's expectations, where they want you to provide a clear aim and possibly the outline of your presentation. The main body of your presentation will be focused on clear themes, and it's up to you, and it's really within the limits of the presentation how many themes you will be discussing. So for example, if you've got a 10-minute presentation, you will be looking at 1 or 2 main themes that are related to the aims, to the introduction. You will need to illustrate the themes with examples. So that's really each section explaining and evaluating the research that you're supporting your examples with. Remember that you will need transition language in every section of your presentation, and here it is really crucial to stay in control what you're saying. It links to effective preparation. So it's really important to make a plan, a clear structure of your presentation, and practice, practice, and practice. So it's really simple advice, but it's really effective at the same time. If you have a 10-minute presentation, you should usually spend an hour practicing your delivery. So you might want to get together with a group of friends, people who will give you constructive feedback, and practice with them. You might also want to record yourself and rehearse yourself, and I'll show you in the latter part of this session what you can do working on your own with different types of software. Your presentation should conclude with a summary of main points of your presentation, where you reinforce the main ideas, the main themes from the body paragraphs, and offer final conclusions. It's also time for questions and answers. It's also time for you to think about how you take questions, how you take the discussion forward. If you want to launch a discussion after your presentation, it's really worth thinking about how you will ask questions related to specific issues. Don't be afraid to engage with your audience. Ask them questions that will engage them in the discussion. So encourage them to be part of your presentation, especially at the very end. Once you've presented all the important points that they are now familiar with, think about the ways of interacting with your audience at that stage. So there we have it. It's the structure of your presentation should really be divided into 3 parts. So the opening, body, and closing. And there are different ways of planning your presentation, but the most important thing to remember is that you need to prepare. From my experience, I've seen very few students who were able to deliver a meaningful and engaging presentation without any preparation. So bear that in mind. When it comes to the delivery of your presentation, I cannot stress enough that your voice, your body language, also visual aids that we're going to talk about later on are key to the success of your presentation. And also think about how you're going to link different sections together. So we talked about the introduction, body, and conclusion. Think about the language, the phrases you're going to use in order to provide transition between different sections. And also make it clear, and just to reiterate, make it clear that members of the audience will have a chance to answer your questions. So establish the protocol very early on, give them a chance again to listen and prepare for the questions. When it comes to the delivery of your presentation, it's not only important what you say, but how you say it. So the pitch, the tone of your voice, the gestures you make, the visuals you use are contributing to the success of your delivery. Think about how you want to practice your presentation so that you feel confident on the day of presenting. And I understand this might be something that many people struggle with, because not everybody is comfortable with presenting in public spaces. But this is what we're doing, this seminar. It's part of coming out of your comfort zone. And if you have a presentation that you want to practice, but for example, don't have anyone to practice it with, you can always ask our team, the learning enhancement team, to help you. So we can book a tutorial and rehearse the presentation together. We can give you pointers on how to progress and the ways of moving forward. And as part of the effective delivery, you will need to use visuals. So you can see I'm using PowerPoint at the moment. And my slides are quite sparse in text. Okay, I really prefer to use images rather than large chunks of text. And I advise students against using text that they can easily and freely deliver verbally. So you can see here, for example, that the picture is sometimes more meaningful than the text on the slide. So your audience will not have enough attention and enough capacity to both read from the slides and follow what you're saying. This skill, so the skill of presenting, is an act of verbal communication. Your audience wants to listen to you primarily. They don't want to read off your slides. So think about how you can minimize the amount of text on the slides. Think about the bullet points. Also have a look at the slides that we've prepared for you. You can also see that the slides have references. So we call them in-text references for presentations. They are very important in academia. We want to know, as your audience, where your information comes from. So you will need to include in-text references and also a list of references towards the very end of your presentation. I'll show you what a list of references looks like at the very end. At Middlesex, you will primarily be using PowerPoint as a software for your presentation. Business students and different schools sometimes use Prezi, but this is something that you will need to agree with your marker, with your module leader, whoever is responsible for marking your presentation and giving you the assignment brief. So let's focus on the PowerPoint a minute, and let me just show you some cool features that the PowerPoint can do. I know there is a saying, death by PowerPoint, but I think that it's not really about the software itself. It's about how you use it and how familiar you are with it. I mentioned rehearsing your presentation earlier on. So here in PowerPoint, you can actually, and it's an online PowerPoint, so I'm using it in OneDrive, you can rehearse with Coach. And this is a really, really fantastic feature to get feedback from PowerPoint itself on your delivery, on the pace of your voice, on the tone, whether you're reading from the slides or not, whether you're using too many ers or rs, which is also part of an effective delivery. So I've taken a snippet of my feedback And you can see I've got my personalized rehearsal report. So that's a report produced once you've finished rehearsing with PowerPoint. You can see that I've rehearsed one slide. I've got the right pace. I should keep it up according to the feedback. My pitch wasn't too monotonous. It could have been better. So there is advice for me. I should increase the tone of my key points. And also there is one other piece of advice regarding originality. So PowerPoint is telling me to try and avoid reading from the slides. So this is, I think, a really, really useful feature, especially when you feel that you can't really rehearse with anyone. This is something that you might want to explore. PowerPoint also allows you to embed videos and also include images in your presentation. When it comes to videos, make them relevant to your presentation. So don't make them too long. Don't play a 3-minute video when you have a 10-minute presentation, because it will take a significant chunk of your delivery. Think about how your visuals, how your visual aids can contribute to the overall message that you want to convey, and also the suitability of the software you're using. There are many, many more types of softwares you might want to explore. Some people are using Mac computers or other devices. It's worth exploring what you can actually do at Middlesex. So worth talking to your marker, to your module leader about it, to your subject tutor. And overall tips for delivering your presentation effectively is practice. Again, I've mentioned that several times in this session. We are working in academia, so your language will be formal, academic. You will also need to create clear and concise visuals. So the general rule is 1 minute per slide. You don't want to exceed that limit too much, because again, that links to your audience's attention span. I mentioned the text already, so it's just to reiterate, do not put too much information, too much text on each slide. Your audience won't simply be able to follow. And also, as part of your practice, time yourself. That will enhance your delivery significantly. Also, refer to the guidelines in your module handbook. You'll usually be able to find all the information you need in your handbook. Remember to read the learning outcomes. They are really, really crucial. These are the expectations from your tutors, and this is how they communicate their expectations to you. And let's move on to the language, because I've mentioned it a couple of times. It is really important to think about what language you will use in order to communicate effectively with your audience. Remember, your audience is at a certain stage when they will expect you to use the language that is appropriate to them and relevant. So I'm just showing you a couple of signposting phrases that you can use, that you can include in your presentation. This phrase, for example, relates to the introduction. Also, there are phrases that can help you with transitions. So think about how you can pace your presentation and link different sections together. If your presentation talks about a cause and effect, think about how these are linked to each other. Stress the transition of each section. Remind the audience which section you are in at the moment. So for example, if you want to conclude your presentation, don't be afraid to say that. And here is just a selection of phrases that can help you power through your presentation and engage your audience more. And to conclude, the components that we talked today, so the audience, effective preparation, and the delivery of your presentation are linked. So you have to really think about all three of them when you are planning and structuring your presentation and also delivering it. Last of all, there are some questions to consider. So this is really for you to reflect on when you're creating your next presentation. think about whether you've got a good introduction, good body paragraphs to talk about, good themes that your audience will relate to, and also effective conclusion. Also think about the linking phrases, how you can link the sections, so the opening, body and conclusion, whether you're supporting your stance with sufficient evidence. Remember again that we're working in academia, so this is an academic assignment. Your presentation will be an academic assignment and it will require substantial amount of research. Illustrate your research with sufficient examples, with examples that are relevant to explain general points and your theory. Think about what kind of visuals you will use. So whether these are pictures or images, maybe graphs, trends to illustrate appropriate points. And also think about how you will open and close your presentation. So this is very crucial, although it doesn't really come under the content of your presentation. These are aspects of your delivery. So thank you very much for watching. Don't be afraid to get help. So let me just go back to our UniHub page. Where you can book a tutorial with us. So this is where we are, the Learning Enhancement team. You can discuss your assignments with us, including the presentation. As I mentioned before, you can rehearse the presentation, your next presentation with us. You can also get help from other teams. So when you're researching for your presentation, you can go to our librarians team. Let me just go to our page again. You can book summer tutorials at the moment. So these are the provisions we have for now. We also have a range of online resources on our page. So don't be afraid to reach out to us. Here are all the contact details you need. So I wish you all the best in presenting, in developing your speaking skills. Let us know how it's going, and I'll see you very soon.